very possible that Random Words and I have heard the first 90 seconds of The Triumph more than any other song in existence. It's a good song, but I hear it in my sleep. We start off with a scene from the original Chapter 3, jump ahead to Chapter 5, back to 3, then back to 5. Certainly a quieter episode overall. Remember to write a segue to the Some motion lines were added between these two shots. The plot point of keeping Oscar a secret is no more, because they never bring it up again. The children have been successfully unpetrified. Blake no longer runs for president. The camera gently pushes in on these shots to reflect the subject intensifying. Random Words somehow made Corsac and Fennec even creepier. Thanks, I hate it. And finally, reference to a certain someone committing a certain act has been removed from this conversation. Don't panic, we're doing a thing. Also, how did they get that message? Did they send a bird? Just like the last episode, Redux Chapter 3 has something of a column response to it. Gira declares his messenger at the beginning, and he's disposed of at the end by Vengeance himself. Blake worries about Adam's influence on Ilya. The final scene reflects that, although this iteration of the White Fang meeting hits a bit different. In the original, Ilya has a rather commanding presence. She publicly renounces the Belladonnas and responds rather coldly to the subject of murder. In Redux, her protest is removed outright, and her temperament in the final scene is notably less aggressive. We had a couple of goals here. One of them was to make the White Fang work exclusively from the shadows rather than broadcasting their association with Adam. Another was to try and paint a picture of a much softer, more conflicted Ilya, make her motives ambiguous, at least for now, and hopefully in the process make some of her later choices harder to anticipate.
I know you've all been through tremendous hardship already. I'm sorry.
Action sequences present their own challenges to edit, but counterintuitively, it's the slower-paced, dialogue-oriented scenes that were among the hardest to get right. When the soundscape is quieter and the movements more subtle, your edits are on full display, and there's really nowhere to hide. People are inherently sensitive to the nuances of conversation. Pauses, breathing, interruptions, run-on sentences, continuity of a character's hands. Even the musical score is tough, and all of these could easily distract if not paid attention to. Manipulating the dialogue can also change the tone of a conversation. In the original, Sun asks why the people of Menagerie are complacent with doing nothing, and Blake answers his question, explaining how they're tired of fighting. In Redux, Blake joins in on Sun's confusion, and the flow of conversation is more that of venting their frustrations to each other. We are certainly happy with the edit, but everyone interprets pacing differently, so I'm curious to hear what you guys think. In my opinion, Chapter 3 suffers from a general lack of conflict. This is also mostly true of the source material, and it isn't much of an issue in the context of a binge watch. Shout out to people in the future, but I think it's worth noting nonetheless. It's perfectly in character for Nora to teleport, but combining the two Ozpin scenes causes everyone else to jump position too. I personally choose to interpret this as a passage of time, but it's still a thing. Chapters 1 and 3 are really the only episodes in Redux that I'd confidently term setup. They don't really advance the plot in enormous ways, but they're still necessary since they set the stage for future conflicts. However, I'm fairly comfortable saying that every single chapter beyond this point will be much more substantial, so if you got through this one, you'll probably do just fine. Got a question from the hero of Mobius. Do you plan on making custom episode titles? We've certainly been talking about episode titles since the beginning of the project, but never truly committed to doing it. We do have a bit of a plan though. It's a little ways off still, but once all of Redux is released, we're planning on hosting a post-mortem livestream. We've got a bunch of activities planned, and one of them is to settle on names for all the Redux chapters. You guys will have the opportunity to contribute ideas, vote for your favorites, and the final picks will be added to the title of each chapter. No specific date and time for the stream though. That'll be announced closer to when it actually happens. Also, just a heads up that there won't be a production breakdown next week. I'm going to be away from my recording setup, so the breakdowns for chapters 4 and 5 will be combined together into one video. Thank you all once again for stopping by, and I'll see you in a little while. Catch you later.